Okay, it's story time again, and we're sitting at the tail end of autumn. Most of the leaves have fallen. They're all just kind of barely hanging in there, and all the fruit is gone. The bees are bedded down. They go from about 50,000 bees in the summertime, and they reduce themselves down to about 500 bees, just enough to keep the queen warm. And they just kind of sit in a little ball in there, and they eat the honey that they've gathered all summer long. And we wait till spring for to harvest the honey, just so they have enough to get through the winter. This is a story that happened, I'm probably 24 years old, maybe 23. I'm still in the Bay Area. I just closed my motorcycle shop and walked away, literally left all the tools in the shop, kept paying the rent, and walked away for about 7 months because I was just fed up. And then during that time, I decided, let's go back to college, and went back to college, and I mean, just a little junior college because it was free, and ended up the whole year in the art department. It was great. I had a wonderful time. But during that time of being in college in the art department, I'm renting a little bachelor pad with about 4 other bachelors, and we're having a great time. But you got to pay the bills, and there was not that many ways to pay the bills in those days. I was wrenching on cars to pay some bills, and that was doing okay. But I was doing it out in front of the house, and it was not that great of a deal, hit and miss, enough to just barely squeak by. Of course, I talked about the little bullet roach clips. Well, they helped out a lot too. One day my sister comes to me and she says, "Nick, I need some help." So I, well, okay, let's see how that goes. And she says, "I've been doing the flea market in Roseville, California. You can look that up. It's about 40 miles from here, and I've been doing the flea market for about 2 years, and it's a great market, and what we're selling, we sell the heck out of it, would you like to take over?" Now this was about this time of year, late autumn, and I said, "Well, yeah, sure." She says, "Great money. You'll make $200 or $300 in a weekend." I went, "Sure, that's great." Now we got to remember, 1972 or maybe 73, $300 was a lot of money. You could buy gas for 25 cents a gallon, buy a loaf of bread for what was it, 80 cents or something like that. You could buy a whole bag of groceries, meat, all kinds of big major staples, and spend $20. That ain't the case these days, right? Yeah. So she says, "Come on over to the house and I'll show you what we're doing." And I'd already known what she was doing. I hadn't really thought about it much. So I went over her house and I met her husband, Tom, and we sat down and talked, and he kind of ran down the whole process on how it's supposed to go, and I agreed. It was like, fine, a good way to make some money, and also it's just on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday only, and then you drive home on Sunday night and you're done, and I have $200 or $300 in my hand, sometimes 400, and that'll get me through the rest of the week, no problem. And so basically their business was selling bootleg 8-track tapes, and they sold the shit out of them. I mean, it's amazing. So the way it worked was if you were going to go to a show on Saturday morning, you had to show up Friday afternoon and work all night to make the tapes. So during the week, Barbara, I mean not Barbara, not my wife, my sister's husband, Tom, he would go and buy some current tapes and bring them back to his shop and copy them, and then have the covers printed and get everything all set. And by the time Friday rolls around, he's got a whole stack of covers and a whole stack of videotapes, or I mean not video, but audio tapes ready to tape. And so they would just like run these loops of tapes. And it was like this little production thing, and we literally work all night long, starting at about 2 in the afternoon all the way until about 2 or 3 in the morning. And we'd probably make, oh, I don't know, 20,000 tapes, you know, 100 of this particular singer and 200 of that and 500 of this, whatever was selling at the time. You know, of course, totally against the law. And I'll tell you about the feds a little later on. So we would work our butts off and this, you know, seal them and shrink wrap them and get them all ready to go and stack them in boxes and load them onto the trucks. And they had about, oh, I don't know, 8 or 10 trucks, and each truck went to a flea market. Monterey, San Jose, Marin. I went to Roseville. There was up in Sonoma a couple places. So you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, we're finally done. We're just dragging butt, and we come out into the fresh air and get in the truck and drive the truck from Hayward to Roseville, which is about, oh, I don't know, a good 2-hour drive. And I'm young and, you know, smoking a joint and had a little meth that we'd take once in a while. This is young and crazy stuff. And we'd show up at the show, usually right at dawn, and sit there at the gate at the front, you know, the first truck in the gate, and pull in and, you know, spend, oh, I don't know, a couple of hours unloading the truck and getting everything all set up. And then once it was all set up, we'd crank up the stereo and play the latest song, you know, Tower of Power and Janis Joplin, and oh man, we had so much going on. And we'd just play music all day long and sell 8-track tapes and a little stack of stereo equipment in the back. You know, somebody would want a stereo, they'd buy it. And it went pretty well. Work all day Saturday, just dragging butt, just barely able to make it through. And then, you know, of course I'm 23, so, you know, I got lots of energy. So show up that night at the hotel, crash out, wake up the next morning, go ahead, do it again, and go back. Hand our money over, and, you know, I'd probably make, I don't know, $8,000-$10,000 in that one weekend, and they had 8 or 10 trucks, you know, added up. They made some bank. So, you know, I did it 3 or 4 times, and there was one time, not one time, actually all winter long, in Sacramento Valley, it's called Tule fog, and it's literally fog that's like 4 or 6 feet deep, and it's just thick as molasses. I mean, just you're driving through it, you can't see nothing. But we had a truck, and so we'd sit up above the fog because it was only 6 feet high, and we could see. At times, there were times when you drop down into a little ravine or something like that, and it would just be a white blanket at the windshield. But you know, we were young and we were stupid, and we're doing 70 going down the freeway with this Thule fog, and the white blanket had come up on the windshield, and I just keep driving, just hoping there was nobody with their brakes on, just hauling butt, high in the fast lane, just going as fast as I could, keeping an eye out down below. You could kind of see the white lines, and you know, riding hit the thumpers. Thump, 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 thump. Okay, pull over a little bit this way. Thump, 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 thump. Pull over back this way. I mean, literally, that's how we got there. And driving the whole way, all the way across Sacramento Valley, which was probably 30, 40 miles. And we did it week after week after week, and nothing ever happened, luckily. So then we get to the show and do the whole show thing, and you know, it was fun. I met a lot of women, and you know, oh man, it was great. And then at the end, jump in the truck, load the truck back up, haul ass, go back to Hayward, and give them the money and get my commission, and then go on about my business for the rest of the week. Told the next Friday rolled around, then the whole thing happened again. Well, this one particular Friday, well, I roll in to the shop, and literally my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, would change shop locations about every 3 weeks, because the feds were constantly on his tail, and changed shop locations. And so one time I pull in, and we jump in the in a little van, because we have to go get some something for setting up the you know, the copying machines. Jump in the van, and the feds are right on our tail following us, and we see them, and we're like, whoa. So, you know, pull over, and in those days, of course, there were no cell phones, so pull over, find a payphone, called Tom and said, hey, the feds are behind us. And he says, okay, just get out of there and lead them off into some direction, and don't come back. So, which we did, and they followed us for a while, and then they realized that we were just running them on a wild goose chase, and so they disappeared. And while that's happening, Tom is literally dismantling his whole you know, production line, and it's set up so that it dismantles real quick. So he dismantles the production line. He gives me a call about 3 hours later. He set up across town. He had already had a place rented, ready to move. He just hadn't moved yet. So it's, you know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We get in a different car. We make sure the feds aren't following us, and then we go back to work, and we work all night, and then get up and get packed and ready to go. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, jump in the truck and drive on out to Roseville to do it all over again. And this went on that entire winter. Now, Tom was not the easiest guy to work under, and after a while he started to grate on me, and you know, my time was coming to an end. It was springtime. I could have continued, because the spring was the best time. I mean, that's when you made the most money. In the wintertime you hardly made anything, and I still made 8 or 10 grand every time. And the feds were chasing him down. They literally never caught him, but they were on his tail a lot. So I just walked away, and I was about ready to move to Nevada City anyhow, and so, you know, I put some money in my pocket and beat feet. And hey, that's pretty much the whole story of the 8-track tapes and stereo equipment. Nick Collier, checking out.